Good evening, everyone, and happy Sos Hanukkah to everyone. I hope you've all had a wonderful holiday and that you're all well. I want to extend our blessings for Shlema to Robert Wolf, one of our Gaboyim, who underwent surgery last week. And Baruch Hashem, he's coming along, and we hope to see him in Shul. And I hope to see all of you in Shul very soon. This week's Parsha Miketz is usually the Parsha of Shabbos Chanukah. But this year, Shabbos Chanukah was last Shabbat, Parsha Vayeshev. It happens once every 22 years in this fashion. And this is an unusual year because we have Purim Mishulash, 3 days Purim here in Yerushalayim, and we have Pesach, Erev Pesach and Shabbat. So it's a unique year, and it hopefully will be a year of Yeshua that will come out of this plague and resume our normal activities, gather together. And I really look forward to seeing all of you in Shul B'Korov. The Parsha Miketz, Yosef has the brothers in his power. His dream has been realized. It says in the Torah, Vayizkor lahem Yosef asach halomos asher chalam lahem. Yosef remembers now the dreams. It doesn't mean that he remembers that he had forgotten the dreams. But now the dreams make sense because they become real. And now the actuality is here. The brothers come and they bow down before him. And there are a number of questions that arise. I want to deal with one or two of them, maybe if I have time with another one as well. Simple questions on the text, and not any fancy perushim. The first question is, what's wrong with the brothers? They don't get it? He leaves pieces of bread all along the road here. How can they be so insensitive not to realize that this person that stands before them as the viceroy of Egypt is really their brother that they sold to Egypt? We see it over and over again. He accuses them of being spies. Why did you enter 10 different gates? Why didn't you come on all together? They realize that he's spying on them. What does he want from them? They say, no, what do you want? We're all... We're the sons of one father. We came from Canaan. We came just to buy bread. We're not spies. We're not interested in anything here in Egypt. We're going to go home. And he refuses to accept their excuse. So the first question is, they're not dealing with a low-level official. How come they got to the viceroy of Egypt right away? I mean, if you get arrested by a functionary or by a policeman, by a detective. It's very rare that the minister of justice will come to arrest the person. Even more rare that the vice president will come and arrest a person. How did they get to this level? They're oblivious to that. They don't want to see anything. And then he arrests Shimon to hold him for a hostage. Why Shimon? The Medrash says that he told him, he said, I know, these two guys are, they'll destroy Egypt, Shimon and Levi, if I leave them alone together. You're a security threat. You're an existential threat to Egypt, you two brothers. So I have to take one of you as a hostage and take Shimon. And a famous Medrash, the Medrash fleshes all of this out. Not necessarily does it mean that we should accept the story the Medrash says, but the idea that the Medrash says. The idea, the story is that Shimon wants to resist the arrest. Yosef's son, Menashe, overpowers him, gives him a blow that overpowers him. Shimon says, Makazu eino ela mibeis Abba. Oh, that's such a clap. Must be from the house of Yaakov Avinu. It's not a stranger that give me such a clap. So the Meforshim explained that Shimon senses that there's something going on here. That everything that's happening is mibeis Abba. It's from my father's house. It didn't start here. There's a prevalent idea in Medrash that Yosef revealed himself to Shimon when Shimon was alone with him. So that Shimon is not surprised when Yosef will say in next week's Parsha, Ani Yosef, that I'm Yosef. But the brothers, why did he take Shimon? Why didn't he take Reuven, the oldest? Why didn't he take Yehuda, who's the main spokesman? So that's one important. So here they ignore the fact that they are taken to the house of the viceroy and arrested by him. And they ignore the fact that Shimon is the one that's arrested. And it never once dawns upon them that it's Yosef that's talking to them. So the Meforshim explain, and the great psychological insight, we see it in life all the time, is that don't confuse me with the facts, my mind is made up. They had decided the story of Yosef is over. He was a rodef, he was someone who was an existential threat to them. They got rid of him, sold him, whatever. That's over. Now we have to continue with our lives and not be haunted by that story. And because they made up their mind that that's the story, that they're never going to have to face it again. So therefore, even blatantly in front of them are clues that the person that's standing before them is Yosef. They do not pick up on the clue because they made up their mind that they're not going to do it. Can't be. We find that in world politics very often. Once you make up your mind, you're convinced, that's the policy, that's the ideology, and that's the way, the facts don't matter. So you can say that communism is the greatest, but The fact that it has failed everywhere doesn't change the fact that people are communists. You can say that Venezuela is going under. It has gone under once the wealthiest country in the Caribbean that no longer can feed itself because of its policies. But that doesn't change the fact that socialism, Marxism is correct. We see that blindness throughout human life. So many businesses follow failed strategies. We do the same thing over that didn't work before. It's true in the religious world as well. He's just finished, this is not a commercial. There were no ads before tonight's shiur, and I'm not doing a commercial, but I'm telling you that I just finished writing a book that will be published, God willing, in the next few months, about Orthodox Jewish society, 1820 to 1940. 120 years, pivotal events, and what the responses were from Orthodoxy in various societies throughout the world. And how, if we look at it objectively, most of the responses were failures. They did not arrest the assimilation and the complete dissipation of Jewish tradition amongst masses of Jews. Yet, to a great extent, those are the exact same tactics that we are using today. And somehow we're oblivious to the fact that they failed then and probably will fail now too. And that it's only because God made us a promise that we wouldn't disappear, so we didn't disappear. But we didn't disappear because of our own genius. So the brothers refused to look at Joseph as Joseph. Can't be. We sold him, we got rid of him, he's there, and it's not a problem. Forget it. Excuse me 1 second. Yes? Not now, I'm doing a Zoom. 45 minutes. Yes. Very sorry. So that is one lesson. The brothers are absolutely insensitive to the fact that Yosef is there. And no matter what he will do, they will not see him. So that even in next week's Parsha, what he says on the Yosef, the brothers couldn't, not only couldn't they answer him, they couldn't recognize him. It can't be. That's if you're an ideologue. If you're committed to an ideal more than you are to reality. So therefore, when reality strikes you in the face, you still ignore it. I need not give examples of that in current life or in Jewish history. You're all aware of many, many situations such as this. Reality is one thing that is very hard to accept if we have preconceived notions. If we think that somehow it has to follow a pattern that we set, and we're unwilling to accept the twists and turns that heaven always forces upon us. So that's one insight here in the Parsha. The brothers refuse to accept that Joseph is there, no matter what he will do. Second problem is, what does Joseph think here? I mean, if you love your brothers, imagine if I didn't see my brother for 20 years. And now he comes. So forget the dreams and forget all the nonsense. My brother, how are you? I love you. What's with the family? What are we doing? It's a reunion. Yisnakir Aleim. He made himself as though he's not a brother. He portrays himself as a stranger to them. Why does he do that? And the torture that he puts them through, and that he will put his father through, not to tell his father what happened, not to reunite right away with his father. Every day is agony for Yaakov. Because I'll say that on the posuk, Vayemoyin Lisnachem. He never found comfort. Rashi points out that we can find comfort on those where we have closure on them. They have departed. They're not here. So the nature of human beings is to overcome that. But here, there's no closure because he's alive. He exists. So every day is agony for Yaakov. But what does Yosef think? What is he pursuing? So there are 2 or 3 different ideas that are advanced here by the Meforshim. Because this is the story of Yosef and his brothers is really the great psychological drama of the Chumash. It portrays humanity in its rawest sense, its basic emotions. Jealousy, betrayal, cruelty, and also greatness, which really is the human story. So one idea is that Yosef simply is exacting revenge. What you did to me was so terrible that you have to pay for it. I'm not going to let it pass. I'm not going to say that it's okay, all right, you did it, forget it, it's not a problem. Because then you won't realize the enormity of what you did. If I just say, Ani Yosef, here, come, kiss me, hug me, you don't have any guilt. You did what you thought was right. It turned out differently, fine, but it's, I didn't do anything wrong. He did not want them to have that feeling. He wanted them to realize that they had done something very wrong. And the only way to, so to speak, effectively make them realize that is to put them through this ringer, is to force them in their pain and in their bewilderment to, so to speak, have empathy with their long lost brother that they so pained and hurt decades earlier. It's interesting. The Torah says, "Lo sikom v'lo sitor." You should not take revenge, should not pursue revenge. because oftentimes the avenger is hurt more than the one he tries to bring revenge upon. Nevertheless, Chazal say that a Talmid Chacham, a scholar that does not take revenge, is not a Talmid Chacham. Meaning that you can't be Mr. Milquetoast in this world. Someone that harms you, you should make him aware that he harmed you. Now, it could be that if you forgive him, you make him aware as well. But Yosef felt that the brothers would not be aware because the brothers were so convinced of their rectitude that what they did was correct, that the only thing that would shake them was the fact that he was taking revenge upon them. And so therefore he concocts this whole scenario and brings them to the level of breaking in front of him, willing to become his slaves. That's one attitude that Chazal bring to the fore. Another attitude is that he wants to bring them to tshuva, not to revenge, but to tshuva. Because he feels that they did such a capital crime that you need a capital tshuva to get out of it. And the capital tshuva would be the story with Binyamin. Because here they have another brother who's also born from Rachel and not from their mothers, who's also a favorite of their father, who the father is not willing to risk him while he is willing to risk them. And it seems that this brother is a criminal, a thief. The Medrash says, they said, he's a thief like his mother. His mother, Rachel, stole the idols from her father, Lavan. He stole the cup. They're convinced that he is guilty. So here Yosef has set up, how do these 10 brothers respond to a brother that they feel is guilty? Because that's what they did to Yosef. They felt that Yosef was guilty. Their whole premise is that he is guilty and that they have to do something about it. So now you have another brother that's guilty. And the brother has great similarity to Yosef. He's from the same mother. He also is a favorite of his father. He deems himself to be special. And he has done a bad thing, a terrible thing. And his action has put us all in danger. Just as they felt that Yosef's dreams put them all in danger. So Yosef brings them, so to speak, to the same situation that they had 22 years earlier, 20 years earlier. The situation in which a brother whom they feel is guilty, should that brother be discarded? Or are we under an obligation, so to speak, to a brother to hold on to him and to try and get out of the situation as best we can, but not to destroy the brother in order to save ourselves. And when Yehuda, representing the brothers, says, send Binyamin home, and I will stay in his stead, I will be his slave, I'm willing to sacrifice the rest of my life so that my brother will be freed and my father will not have to deal with him being lost, so that he has brought them back to tshuva. Because tshuva always is in like circumstances. The Rambam posits it in Hilchus Tshuva. He says that it has to be the same place and the same temptation. And the person doesn't give in this time. This time he's not willing to allow it to somehow destroy him. And therefore, Yosef brings them to the level of tshuva. And bringing someone to the level of tshuva is an enormously high attribute. But it is a very dangerous one because of the fact that one, so to speak, puts himself in the place of heaven. He's saying, I know what's best for you. That's a dangerous situation. But Yosef risks it because he wants to bring them to tshuva. So that's the second view of why Yosef behaves the way he behaves. Third view is that Yosef, because of his power of the dreams, because of the fact that he sees the world with different eyes, on a different level. Yosef is never superficial. Yosef is someone that understands the deepest motives that drive events in history. And many times those motives are the fulfillment of prophecies made generations earlier, but that the will of the Lord is such that they have to be fulfilled now. So there was a prophecy that they all knew from to our father Avraham at the Brit Bein HaBetarim, the moment of the covenant. Ki ger yeh zaracha be'eretz lo lahem. Your seed, your descendants will be strangers in a land that's not theirs. Va'avodim v'hinu osam arba me'os shona. And it will be a hard exile. An exile of slavery, discomfort, of enormous cost. V'don anochi, I will then judge that nation, and your children will go out b'chush gadol, with a great treasure. Now this prophecy was known to all of the brothers. It was like a prophecy that hovered over their heads. It was something that was real to them. but they did not feel that they would be the ones that fulfill the prophecy, or that it would happen to them in their generation, or they were unaware of under what circumstances the prophecy would be fulfilled. The Medrash says that the Ribono Shel Olam, so to speak, was magnanimous to them, that they went down with golden chariots and with special rights and conveniences, and they're going to live in the errands in the land of Goshen, and they're going to be protected by their brother, who is the viceroy. Now that can't be the prophecy, because the prophecy said that the avodim v'inu also, that it would be a difficult time. They did not realize how the prophecy unfolds. According to the Netziv and many of the Meforshim, it's only the last 80 years that they were in Egypt that they were subjected to problems, to slavery. The first period of time, 130 years, that was great. And when things are great, you don't see how it's going to turn. How can it turn? We are all convinced that what was is what will be, even though it never is. And we're convinced that somehow, if things are good now, it'll be better later. But Yosef, who is operating under a different wavelength, who sees the world differently, Yosef is aware that the fact that he was sold to Egypt and the fact that he became the viceroy in Egypt, those are not random, accidental events. And he's aware that this is the beginning of the prophecy. This is the beginning of the fulfillment of what God told Avram. And he wants to prepare the brothers for it. And part of the preparation is to show them what Egypt can be. They can arrest you on the street. They can concoct all sorts of false charges against you. They can take away your family as hostages. You're completely innocent. You didn't do anything. But look at what happens. And therefore, you should not be fooled by the fact that right now things look good. Right now, you're protected by Yosef. There'll come a time that there won't be Yosef. There'll be a Melech Chodesh. There'll be a new government. Shelo Yoda is Yosef. Yosef doesn't count anymore. Doesn't exist anymore. And the period of slavery will begin. And you will be bound by it. And that's the fulfillment of what God had promised Abraham at the Brit Bein Haftarim. And therefore Yosef wants to, so to speak, immunize them by giving them already the virus of the exile, so that they won't be fooled by it. But as we will see when we study the book of Shemot, first chapter, the Jewish people were fooled. They had such a good life that they didn't imagine that things could turn. And I don't want to give any examples. We all know from history and from current events. Life is uncertain. Jewish life is certainly uncertain. And therefore, Yosef, in creating this whole scenario, is giving them a lesson for generations. A lesson that they should contemplate and assimilate within themselves. That this is how exile looks. It may look attractive at the beginning, but exile always ends up being exile. There are no exceptions to it. So these are three insights into Yosef. In Medrash, there are many more. Into this fascinating interaction between Yosef and the brothers. What did they think and what did he think? The basic questions are still there, we don't recognize what's in front of us because we don't want to. And if you don't want to, then it's not there, right? It's like a little child that closes his eyes so he doesn't have to see the danger. But the danger doesn't disappear. And Yosef has this feeling of revenge and of bringing them to tshuva and of helping them understand the prophecy of the exile. So each side has its agenda, so to speak. And the Torah records it for us with all of the twists and turns that are part of human nature and of human existence. This is a very rich parsha. There's many, many nuances to it. Many things that one can dwell and think upon. But I think these two main issues will suffice for us here tonight to understand Yosef, to understand the brothers, and all of them are dominated by the will of heaven, by the hashgacha that drives this story forward throughout all of its details and fascinating subjects. So I want to thank you all for listening. Wish you the remnants of a happy Hanukkah and a Shabbat Shalom. And stay well, and I look forward to seeing all of you happy and well in the Beit Knesset. Kol Tuv Selo.